The 1.0 release of V-Rising is coming closer and closer, and with that, SLS are giving us more information about what they're working on. One big announcement, of course, being that the game will release on the PlayStation 5 and it will have controller support for us PC players as well. But in a more recent dev update, they gave us what I consider to be the most interesting news since they revealed what they were working on with live events, and that is what they're planning for character customization. As they've stated in earlier updates, they're working a lot on the actual ending of the game, with an all-new area full of new dangers, resources, and the real final boss. Okay, so hi, sorry for butting in. As I'm sitting here applying the final touches to this video, I get a YouTube notification on my phone telling me that Stunlock Studios has released a cinematic reveal for their release date. So if you're sitting there wondering why this video doesn't acknowledge that there is a release date or that we now know who the final boss is, I just thought I'd pop in and say that I'm aware. I've had very little time to sit down at the PC lately, and finishing this video has taken forever. Alright, back to the actual video we go. As they've stated in earlier updates, they're working a lot on the actual ending of the game, with an all-new area full of new dangers, resources, and the real final boss. This might have been expected, but now it's confirmed that a new tier of equipment will be coming as well. So higher max gear level and new stuff is coming. On top of that, they've said that legendary weapons will get a rework, rebalancing them into 3 different tiers. They'll also introduce something called artifacts, which include distinctive weapons for each weapon type with all new abilities that, in the words of SLS, will change the way we play with these weapons. Here's a big change that I'm so in favor of that if it ran for office I would vote for it. Shards will no longer be big structures that you place in your castle, but equipable items. So in order to get the buffs they offer, you need to wear the item. In other words, you need to risk them, which I think is interesting and exciting from a PvP perspective, and for those only playing PvE, this is convenient. Think about how much space in your castle this will free up. But most importantly, this will shift the endgame loop of the game away from raiding. If people want these shards to be worth anything, they will be out and about instead of sitting in a castle. And in my opinion, raiding has been the least fun part of the game so far. So yeah, I am very happy about this. But if you thought that this was the best thing we got in this dev update, you'd be wrong. If there's one thing I've been harping on about in this game, it is the lack of armor variety. We've had different weapons with distinct abilities that impact the way we play. Finding your weapon in V-Rising also means finding your playstyle. Armors, however, haven't had any effect on how we play the game, until now. Or until the release of 1.0, I should say. 4 new armor sets are coming with distinct looks and stats. Names for these sets are subject to change, but they will give boosts similar to the different blood types. So we'll be able to craft Brute, Warrior, Rogue, or Scholar armors, basically. In the update, SLS state that they want us to be able to play out our version of the vampire fantasy, whether that is the Shadow in the Night, the freakishly strong, or the practitioner of the dark arts of magic. The title of this paragraph is Vampire Courts, Knights, Warlocks, and Assassins. So the game still won't have classes in the classic RPG fashion. We won't choose a class in character creation, and levels and many abilities will still be determined by gear, but we'll be much closer to having different classes to choose between. I guess it would be more accurate to say that we will have more options when it comes to how we spec our characters. And this is huge. If these differences between armors are meaningful and have an impact on how we play, it could really add to the game. It has the potential to create much more dynamic PvP and more interesting co-op. And it'll absolutely do wonders for the replayability of the game. As the game is now, yes, I could play with a different weapon on a second playthrough and try to use different spells, but if I could have one playthrough where I spec towards the rogue type with a weapon and spells to match, a second playthrough where I spec Scholar could be very different. At least I hope it will be. That would make a new playthrough feel much more, well, new. And if that's not customizable enough for you, we will get a boatload of options when it comes to changing the way we look, which is nice of course. But there's one thing I can't wrap my head around. Maybe someone watching this can help me out here. Aside from being able to change colors of the stuff we're wearing, the dev update says this: the equipment menu has been changed dramatically and now has a collapsible section attached to each armor piece. In this new section, there is a slot where you can place any armor piece, which will overwrite the appearance of anything you're wearing currently. So, am I understanding this correctly? I can wear this armor, and then insert this armor into that slot, and now this armor will look like this armor. Or as in this example, we're wearing this armor, but we can make it seem as though we're not wearing armor at all. The more times I read this, the more convinced I am that this is what it means, which I have to say I'm not that jazzed about. When I started reading about being able to customize the way armor looks, I thought I hope it doesn't make it too hard to see what armor the other player's wearing, especially now that we will have these different armors that just by appearance can indicate if I'm fighting someone who wants to stand back and bombard me with spells or someone who's likely to get up close and personal. And that was a concern when all I thought you could do was mess around with the colors and stuff. But if I'm reading what I think I am, it's possible for players to hide what type of armor you're wearing from their opponents. From a PvP perspective, that doesn't sound like a good idea. I'm still not sure if I'm understanding this part of the dev update correctly. If someone watching this is confident that I'm either right or wrong, please go down to the comments and let me know. I really appreciate it. Overall, I'm very excited about the news in this dev update. It seems as though V-Rising will take a huge step forward with the release of 1.0, which of course is great news for those of us who have been spending a lot of time in early access. Speaking of spending time, thank you so much for spending your time watching me. If you made it all the way here, I hope you enjoyed it, and that I'll see you in the next time. Bye. The 1.0 release. The 1.0 release. PS5, and that it will release with controller. Why can't I not say the fuck cunt roller support? I'm a cunt roller.